Today's topic is youth unemployment. Hello, everyone. Good to be with you once again. Today, we are very lucky to have with us Professor Vishwanath Dalvi. He teaches chemical engineering, I believe, in Mumbai. Okay, over to him. Over to you, Professor. Let's hear from you.
Thank you very much for having me here. Very quickly, I am allowed to say whatever I want. So what I say is, of course, can be slightly controversial. So, and I take responsibility for it.
Sure.
So whatever I say here is on my head alone.
Oh, yeah.
So this is an important topic. In the sense, we are moving slowly towards a terrible train wreck. In the sense, we have India,
Yeah.
by we I mean India, and Africa. This sort of applies to Africa as well. Very burgeoning youth population. And what has happened is because of a significant leveraging of economies of scale in China and a significant leveraging of automation in the West, the markets for manufactured products has shrunk, and services cannot be very readily. Services by that I mean medical care, nursing, the judicial system, maintenance. These services, these cannot be outsourced. Outsourced across the country. Picking fruit for another, agricultural labor. These are very hard, not very sought after, and susceptible to automation jobs. Not nursing, but at least agricultural labor. So what happens is we have a burgeoning youth population which is underemployed. Underemployed means we are not taxing their full potential. And when we are not taxing their full potential, what happens? There is an old saying, a proverb almost. It says, an empty mind is the devil's workshop.
Okay.
And this has been true in several cases. We see the tail end of the Weimar Republic result in terrible that of course coincided with the aftershocks of the 1929 crash in the US stock markets, which led to the Great Depression. And the aftershocks hit the pretty well functioning Weimar Republic. It was not a bad republic, but because
you're talking about Germany, right?
I'm sorry, yes, yeah. Germany.
Yeah.
The regime, the Second Reich, the regime that preceded Nazi Germany, was a pretty well-functioning democracy. William Shirer writes about it.
Yeah.
And then it all went south, primarily because there were hordes of unemployed youth. The second instance is the end of the Roman Republic.
Mm-hmm.
Why did the Roman Republic end? Because of, people postulate a number of reasons, but you can trace it to one important reason. The end of the farmer soldier.
Mm-hmm.
The Roman army was composed of farmers who would farm, and when Rome needed them, they would join the legions and they would come back to farm. So they owned capital in the form of land. And when Rome expanded, they would give citizenship to the people they had conquered, and they would become these soldier farmers. It ended sometime in by 100 BC.
Mm-hmm.
And the new lands were not turned into Rome, but they were enslaved.
Yeah.
And the Roman elite operated vast agricultural estates, which they called the latifundia.
Yeah.
And that resulted in the bankruptcy of the soldier farmer. And And so there was a massive concentration of wealth on one hand and a total lack of capital on the other. And then that gave rise to a situation where a small number of people could afford to field standing armies.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of youth who were unemployed, who sort of fed those armies, and that led to those wars between Caesar and Pompey and so on, and that led to the rise of Cassius, Caesar, Pompey, and then there was the Roman Empire. The third very recent case is there was a terrible carnage in Bombay in around the early 1900s.
Mm-hmm.
And you can almost draw a straight line between that carnage, and people say the trigger points for religion and so on and so forth, the Babri Masjid and what, but you can draw a straight line between that carnage to the 1985 mill strikes,
Mm-hmm.
which shut down the mills across Bombay. So
Yes.
entire generation of youth
Yeah.
grew up seeing their father unemployed and bitter. They themselves grew up with no prospects and became bitter and angry and full of energy at the same time. And they were then channeled into shameful things.
Mm-hmm.
So we are looking at now, so we have three instances where youth are unemployed. It leads to terrible, if you want, you can add the French Revolution to this. So
Yeah.
when the youth are unemployed, it leads to terrible carnage.
Yeah.
Shameful things, because you have a combination of anger, bitterness, strength, vigor, and stupidity.
Ah.
All at once. So
yeah. Okay.
youth are stupid.
Yeah.
It's not all youth. You just look at, if I look at me 20 years ago, just mindless.
Yeah.
So just taking everything society said and taking it at face value. There was no critical analysis of any sort.
Yeah.
So that sort of, so very easy to be led by, say, an alcohol or a tobacco ad.
Yeah.
And one has a inflated sense of what one can do, because one has grown up watching superheroes in cartoons. Yeah. So one thing's throwing a battle tank 2 football fields down the field is nothing, because you see it happen every day. Yeah. On TV. Yeah. But yeah, so it takes some time to you have to have a child and then start a family to figure out the real limits of your abilities. Yes. Till then, they have not been tested. No. So these now, what is important is that their energies, their creativity, their vigor be channeled into productive things. Yeah. And there was a very lovely idea that happened in America towards the end of the Great Depression, which, of course, Second World War sort of took them out. But there was this thing called a New Deal. Yeah. That, President Roosevelt came out with a New Deal, and the New Deal was involved massive amounts of public works. So what they said, and I think very rightly, was that you have all these youth, businesses have been wiped out. We have got to employ them, but let's employ them in a productive way. Yes. So let's build things that will serve for a couple of generations. Yeah. So they undertook massive public works. Yes. And I think several of them are still fueling America's economic vigor even now. So, and more importantly, it kept America probably from going communist. Yeah. At the same, the Europe was just all going communist at the time. Russia is a very can be another case study for this thesis of mine, which is of course only mine, nobody else's. So all the flaws belong to me. The now how do you now how do you how does one person address this? It's so policymakers can do whatever they want, and one can give all the advice to policymakers that they will hear or they won't hear. But most likely they won't hear. Policymakers listen to the loudest sound in the room, and not the most well argued, but the loudest. The person who can keep up a consistent pressure. Now, keeping up consistent pressure is employing a certain amount of manpower. You have to be there every day, see their face, take them to lunch, yell at them, scream at them, organize. So these things are expensive. The only people who have the resources to do all this are people with deep pockets already. And it is very unlikely that a person who is maybe 50 years, 60 years old has lived his life has born with a silver spoon in his or her mouth, has lived a comfortable life without seeing the problems of in the slums, for instance, has the resources to influence politicians, is unlikely to advocate for policies that are beneficial to the youth. Even out of a sense of self-preservation. Now, this is important. Unless this train wreck is addressed now, all the wealth that people have accumulated is going to turn into rubble, and it will fall on their heads. This has happened repeatedly through history. And so this has to be addressed now. So that's a very high level.
Understood.
So what can one person do? And what can a chemical engineer do? So forget about I cannot go to Delhi or to Mantralaya and sit on dharna every day. Impossible. I have family to feed and all that. I cannot write policy papers. Just and even if I did somehow manage to conjure up the Vair Vital and whatever to do it, unlikely anybody would read them. That's the second thing. I cannot compete with an already prejudiced 60-year-old I cannot convince him or her to change their mind. Too junior to begin with, and the mindset is already fixed. So that cannot be changed. So what can be done? The only thing I can do is develop technology. And so what technology can possibly be useful? And so that brings us to energy. Everybody needs energy. And most of the consumers of energy are in the cities. And right now they are supplied by energy that is brought out from coal mines and oil fields. Coal mines from I would like to say coal mines from Dhanbad or some, but no, coal mines mostly from Indonesia and Australia. And oil, of course, from Middle East and now Russia. So basically, money is being funneled outside the country. Outside the country to people who don't really like us very much. Or don't respect us and that sort of thing. Not. So anyway, wherever it is being funneled, it doesn't matter where it is being funneled. It is being funneled away from the grassroots. Now, if we could have a system, if we could have a system in which the rural sector can generate and supply the energy that the urban centers need.
Yeah.
A vast amount of that energy can go back.
Yeah.
Into and develop the economy from the bottom.
Yeah.
Now, how do you make this happen in an organic way, not top down,
Yeah.
but in a bottom up way?
Yeah.
So I have been investing my time and effort.
Yeah.
With collaborations, of course.
Yeah.
With important professors in ICT and elsewhere. In two aspects.
Yeah.
One is solar thermal.
Yeah.
And take note of the word thermal.
No, I understand. Yeah.
And the second is biogas.
Yeah.
Now, solar thermal. Why solar thermal? We have no infrastructure for photovoltaics. We have no electronics fab system. Photovoltaics is basically electronics.
Right.
We don't have a way of refining silicon to that order.
No, we are importing the panels.
Yeah, we are importing the panels. So if we go for photovoltaics, we are doing exactly what we are doing with oil.
Correct. You're just importing the panels from China.
Yeah, from China. Yeah. From another country who doesn't like us. So, but we manufacture our own glass. We manufacture our own aluminium. We manufacture our own steel.
Yeah. And
that's all that is required to make a concentrator.
Yeah.
And concentrator with the oil, which we manufacture ourselves, can drive a steam engine, which we can manufacture in home, and that can generate electricity.
Okay.
Further, the system is simple enough that all the technology required, you need a laser cutter.
Yeah.
You need sheets of glass, which there are large number of steel mills that provide this.
Yeah.
You need sheets of steel, sheets of glass.
Yeah.
You need a way of mirroring them. Hundreds of small scale enterprises provide them. Laser cutter can be done in small scale enterprises. So the solar thermal device that we have developed in our group, our group includes Professor J.B. Joshi from ICT, Professor Sudhir Panse, who was formerly principal of Parla College.
Yeah.
And so we got a lot of help from Mr. Narendra Shenoy from Shenoy Enterprises in Bombay.
Yeah.
So the idea is a concentrator, which can be installed by a team of 2 people.
Okay.
The concentrator is dismantleable. It comes in a box.
Yeah.
It's like a large mechano set.
Yeah.
You might know mechano.
No, I know.
It's a fun toy.
Yeah, I know.
So this is like a large mechano set. Everything is on bolts.
Yeah.
Everything is on bolts. You set it up. 2 people can set it up in an afternoon. And so an entire plant can be set up in a week, but you don't need these hydras and cranes to come and install you just need people. And so semi-skilled people can do this job. Reasonably skilled people can manufacture.
Yeah.
So if this and a reasonably semi-skilled person can operate.
Yeah.
So if this takes off, then there will be there will be not a acre of land which is left untapped. Everything will be covered with solar panels, solar collectors. like these. All the unfertile land
Yeah.
in and if you use only 10% of the unfertile land in India,
Yeah.
you can supply the entire electricity needs of India.
Okay.
So if you have this system, but then so that's the point is not to supply electricity needs of India, though it is a important side effect. The point is to get all these young people productively involved.
Right, I understand.
Supplying something very vital to the country's needs. So everybody now takes part in developing, and then once they get familiar with it, there'll be geniuses among them who will come together and come up with a better one and a better one and a better one, and then it will just take on a life of its own.
Okay.
So
let me understand this. So the concentrator is to be able to heat water and create steam, and then run a conventional steam turbine power plant, right?
It's not a steam turbine. So yeah, that's a good question. A steam turbine power plant requires a minimum of 50 megawatts.
Okay.
And that also, that is too centralized.
Yeah.
What we want is micro CSP, decentralized.
No, so okay, I get the concentrator is small, right? Then you concentrate your heat on liquid, whether it is water or something, and you heat that. Now, how you've got the heat exchanger, okay? You got your liquid heated. What does the heated liquid do?
The heated liquid will raise steam, but it won't send it through a steam turbine. It will send it through a piston engine.
I see. Okay. So I was wrong in saying turbine. What you're saying is steam is needed, but it's some older fashioned technology which can be scaled down. And that is what will drive the steam will then drive those pistons, and that's what will generate the electricity.
So we are, in a sense, going helically backwards to the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. But this time not using wood or coal, this time using the sun.
No, you are just concentrating the heat of the sun to heat the water, and you use the heated water to create steam, and then you use the steam to generate electricity. So the novelty is really in scaling it down and on using the solar concentrator, which is homemade, not imported, which is, and we have the capacity and the resources to make it. Just concentrate the heat, and then you got your power going. Okay.
Yeah. So the concept is very, very simple. It is something that a 10th standard or even a reasonably bright 4th standard student would be able to grasp.
Okay, fine.
If you have heard of James Watt and what he did, then you basically have the full idea.
I know what James Watt did. I know very well what he did. Okay. But let's not get me involved. I'm just a participatory listener. Otherwise,
of course, by you, I meant a person of that you.
Okay, let me not talk. Okay, let me listen. Okay, so we got this electricity thing going. And it creates a certain amount of job. It creates certain amount of rural income, and it reduces the need to import either coal or panels. Whichever way you do it, either it's imported Australian coal or Indonesian coal, because our own coal is substandard and it has too many pollutants, etc. in it, and you can't really burn that coal without putting out sulfur dioxide and various other things, and plus the efficiency is not that high. So the coal is not local, and the oil is not local, and the panels are not local. So we need something local, right? Okay, good. I get the point.
Yeah. So that's an endeavor still in progress.
Okay, very good.
So
I love it.
And so the other idea is you have this massive amount of agricultural residue.
Yeah.
And if you look at the energy potential of the agricultural residue, of course, is very famous or infamous for causing the winter smog or winter fog in the terrible.
Yeah.
So it's all stubble burning in Punjab and Haryana.
Right.
Now, if that stubble could be gathered,
yes,
and turned into biofuel.
Yeah.
Among the biofuels, there are two biofuels that people immediately think of. One is uh, so not just biofuel, but biochemicals, I would say. That could substantially offset our crude oil imports. So I did a small calculation once, and it turned out to be something like 70% of our crude oil imports, the energy content could be offset by using agricultural residue, 70%.
Okay. All right.
That means something like whatever that $70 billion or so, that $100 billion or so that we send out of the country every year.
Yeah.
Imagine the cascading beneficial effects of spending that money on farmers.
Okay.
If we give $70 billion every year into our grassroots,
yes,
the economic and social benefits will be tremendous.
Yes. And
So
how do you displace the oil with this biofuel?
Yeah, so there are two technologies, one established, one we are still trying to establish. The established technology is biogas.
Yeah.
And so biogas currently is done in essentially a very big pot.
Yeah.
In which you put everything in and it ferments,
Yes.
and out comes the gas.
Right.
Which you clean up and send forward.
Right.
That is still too centralized.
Yeah.
For my tastes.
Yeah.
Not my taste, but for what
you need.
I'm trying to forestall.
Yeah.
In my little way.
Yeah.
So the idea would be to have small biogas digesters.
Yeah.
And make them multiple stage, so they use most of the carbon in the water.
Yeah.
And then pipe that biogas. The biogas digesters generate their own pressure, so you can use that same pressure to pipe the biogas to a central facility.
Yes.
Just for upgrading. So you can think of a biogas cooperative.
Okay.
Like you have very successful sugar and milk cooperatives. Okay.
Yes.
Sugar cooperatives are not that successful. They are very highly politicized, but milk cooperatives.
Yes.
Milk cooperatives, and there is the largest cooperative in India is not Amul. It is a company called Indian Farmers Fertilizer Corporation, IFCO.
Okay.
It manufactures urea.
Mm-hmm.
It's a full-fledged chemical company. They invented a fertilizer called nano urea, which has very, very wonderful properties. But so the cooperative idea has taken has a good good history in India, has a good track record in improving people's lives. So that sort of thing would be interesting. That sort of thing that we are trying to work towards.
Yeah.
Now why make something that is so low value as fuel, something you have to burn? If you're going, so this is coming to the second, less tested. If you have lignocellulosic biomass, which is lignin, cellulose, hemicellulose, it's possible, and this was proved in 1932 in Germany. Yeah, it's possible to convert that directly to glucose. Glucose and lignin. Now, once you have glucose, you can bring in. India has a very lovely biology, biochemical, microbiology. What shall we call microbiology intellectual infrastructure. Yeah. So once you have glucose, you can give this along with suitable other ingredients to one of various microorganisms which are being engineered in laboratories across India. And they can make biochemicals, which are of very high value. and because the feed becomes inexpensive, because you're getting it not from corn
Yes.
or rice or
Yes.
from sugar, you're getting it from the stalks.
Yeah.
So the feed becomes less expensive,
Right.
and now that can lead to a another industrial revolution, a bio-industrial revolution in the Indian rural sector, because
Okay.
that's where all the feed is coming from.
Yeah.
So there is a great scientist in India. His name is Anil Kakodkar.
Yeah. Famous.
Yeah, very famous.
Yeah.
He came up with the idea of a village, which is a city in a village.
Yeah.
Now, that idea, so what people are trying to do is trying to see how that idea can be viable.
Yeah. Hmm.
What could drive a
Hmm.
silage? What
Hmm.
would make it viable? So
Mhm.
something like this, in which the surrounding villages
Yeah.
generate the glucose,
Yeah.
and the silage has all the biochemists and engineers
Yeah.
required
Yeah.
to convert that glucose into value-added products,
Yeah.
which then you ship to other places for incorporation and formulations and such. That could be a very, very viable model.
Okay.
But of course, the sticking point right now is the technology. How do you convert lignocellulosic biomass to uh, sugar?
Yeah.
And how do you preserve the sugar? So we are thinking of that. We are
Okay.
working on that.
Wonderful. It's
Yeah.
very good, and certainly I can understand it, but I can't contribute to it. And but all I can say is that I'd like to come back to you in 6 months, and
Yeah,
and
see what.
in February next year, and get an update as to where it is, what's happening, and whether there's progress on these two fronts, because it really does create income. It will not create enough number of jobs, but it does create income, and that
Mhm.
income then goes on to create other jobs. So,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the number of people employed by this, as you said, is not very large. It's not a large nature of employment generation as such, but I am actually quite sympathetic to the idea that actually employment takes care of itself if there's income.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If people have money, they buy things, and some of those things will be local. Some of those things will not be local. They'll buy city things. But what you are really after is not jobs for the sake of jobs. You're after incomes, right? And
Yeah.
you also want jobs for jobs, true. But anything that helps and is local, and as you rightly pointed out, saves foreign exchange and all that. Can I add my own idea to your group?
Of course, of course. Yeah,
Okay.
very welcome. Actually.
I wrote a short note on my 3 energy priorities for India. And my first concern was not at the household level, but at the semi-commercial level, to get rid of this bloody LPG in cooking. Okay, because you have this LPG is all imported, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's all bloody fossil fuel on top of it.
Absolutely.
And now we have got, rightly, I'm not against it. Rightly, we have got even poorer households hooked to LPG, though they really can't afford the cylinder. They get the chula, but they don't have money for the cylinder. But that's a separate problem. I deal with those issues, but I have not talked to you about it. What my interest is that, the dhabas, where there is a little cooking at scale, right? And either they are using, now you go and see, to make chai, they use induction stoves. They're using induction stoves, right? But that, electricity, we know to generate more, but if it's coming from this dirty coal, then what's the point of that electricity, right? If we can get this biomass, which you are rightly pointing out, to run the commercial scale cooking, okay, and to go into the place where they actually feel the income loss, they feel the cost, right? LPG is neat, clean, everything, electricity is neat, clean, everything, but they have to pay. And if they can get a cheaper substitute fuel and they can run their dhaba, their cooking and all that with and perhaps, I'm just a dreamer, some of the stuff like, you have to fry jalebis, right? But if you have a small scale solar concentrator, okay, and that you've got your liquid which has the heat transfer in it, going around and heating the cooking thing, and your fuel then is supplemental heat to bring it to the right temperature.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, I know this concentrator stuff, and also you get the concentrator to do the preheat. What we, as an economist, I call it preheat.
Yeah, preheat is a wonderful word for it.
Preheat, and then you say, okay, you want it at 110 Celsius. Solar concentrator at times will only bring it to 80, 90. You have the supplemental biogas to bring it up to the right temperature, so that your needs are always met by a combination of a solar concentrator, which can work in a larger dhaba or even in a smaller dhaba, and can actually be a supplemental from this biogas, which is, perhaps comes in a cylinder, but not LPG, but biogas.
Yes. That's
and then, you just hook it. And then when the concentrator has heated it enough, then you can turn off the gas. But if the concentrator is not working, you can turn on the gas. Anyway, it's just one thought that, look,
it's a wonderful thought. And
we need to get rid of this bloody, and I can't go into households and say, give up LPG, because they'll throw me out. Okay. And rightly so, I will say, right. But I can certainly go to places where, or, if they are making a small scale cooperative, say, of women, they are making matri or something else, right? Which has to be fried or has to be cooked. And, they are a running operation, so then they are in a small building, something like that. You have the concentrator outside, it brings in the heat through the heat exchanger, and you can also supplement it with the biogas, so that you get actually guaranteed supply of heat, because basically you just need heat, process heat, right? So what we are doing is, we are either cooking with electricity or with LPG. Both are facing the same problem that you have outlined, and I did write this up, but you said nobody reads policy papers, nobody reads me. But since you are the person nobody reads, you can hear me out on this, and perhaps you can, I'm no engineer at all, but you can think about how we can concentrate the same idea which you're putting in the village, same concentrator, at a at scale, not in a house. Say, you have a hostel for which there's cooking, or there is a midday meal being cooked in a school, in a village school, right? Then there you go there, I've seen them, the chula is there, the smoke is there, all this is just terrible. Now, maybe they put LPG there, but that is also terrible, because the money is flowing out, and you are
money is flowing out,
and you are greenhouse gas on top of it. So you have to what is this? You're putting solar panels and then saying we are doing this, but bloody hell, your cooking is all in greenhouse gas. So in a school, in the Maharashtra villages, or in a hospital, small clinic for hot water to wash the dishes or to wash everything, that process, what you call as process heat. So if we can look not just at electricity, right? Not just to generate electricity, but to actually heat. To heat, because process heat is also needed, right? And that is now coming from coal, or coming from LPG or electricity. Either way, you are losing. So I just want to plant that idea that, listen, of course, again, we are not aiming at household level, because household level is too hard. Scale isn't there. The money is not clear. But if we can get it into the scale, not huge. I'm not saying go to big hostels or hotels and all.
Mm.
But the smaller places, there are plenty of them everywhere. And if we can get that kind of thing working, since you are creative and you have a group, this is my suggestion to you.
Yeah. It's a great suggestion. It's a
Yeah.
great suggestion.
So
Processed heat is actually a untapped market.
it is an untapped market, and it is a national, and no government's going to do it. Okay, let's be clear. No government can do it because they say, oh, we have given LPG to everybody. Okay, fine. We are not going into households to take away LPG. We are going into the dhabas, the hotels, the small dhabas, the small hostels, small schools where there is process heat being used. Why convert to electricity? Why not just subsidize process heat?
Yes.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah. So why go through this thing that I've got a concentrated thing? Now I'm going to heat the water, is going to generate the steam, because I need the bloody transmission line also,
Yeah.
I have to hook into the grid, and then how will the grid pay me? It's all
all kinds of problems. Yes.
all kinds of problems. How will the grid pay me? How will the grid function with these systems all over the place? They will say, no, we can't deal with this. You can deal. What I'm saying is go directly to the consumer, to the commercial, semi-commercial consumer, and say, listen, we can do better for you.
Yes.
Just my thought.
No. It's a good idea. We'll start not implementing, but we'll start working it out very seriously.
Okay.
It's a very, very good idea.
Yeah, I'm part of a group of people who think about energy, but they are just talking solar power and all. I say, forget it, guys. I'm not interested. I am seeing this stupid LPG being imported and being given away at subsidized prices. Now I know that it's very important for households because they shouldn't have the smoky chulhas. Okay, so I'm not saying a word about it, but at the upper level, there should be a better way to do it with no money being funneled out, as you rightly pointed out.
And do you know a couple of numbers I'll throw at you?
Yeah.
Right now, solar thermal for process heating, very tragically, is imported from Sweden of all places.
Where they have no sun.
Where they have no sun. And the cost is $600 per meter square of aperture.
Wow, but it can be made,
Yeah, and the system that we have designed is $100 per meter square.
Obviously, there is no. I mean, in Sweden, you have to pay to breathe.
Yeah.
I've been to Sweden. I mean, those places are so expensive that obviously it's going to cost much more than it will cost in India. I had a friend from Sweden. He came to visit us, and he took me and my wife and my son to a restaurant. Okay, an expensive restaurant. Okay, and the menu prices were so high that my son, who was 15 years old, he said, "Oh my God, this is per person is what we pay as a family." This is the prices, so he feigned the stomach ache and he says, "Oh, I have to go. Can you come with me?" So I went with him. I said, "What's happening?" He says, "Can I actually order this?" This guy's paying, not you, but can I order it? I said, you know what? I had told this guy that, now in Washington, the all day parking for a car is $18. Park the car for the whole day, you have to pay $18. I said, it's very expensive. He laughed at me. He said, that's per hour in Sweden. Sweden is like, okay, that Scandinavia is out out of this world.
Yeah. Really out of this world.
Out of this.
No connection to us whatsoever.
No. So anyway, I'm glad we have had this conversation, and I'm really happy to hear all these things which you practical. I'm just, as I said, a dreamer. I don't know anything about practical stuff, but this is sort of my dream that we can get this done. And certainly it's not a technical issue at all, because the resources are there, the people are there, India has the people, India has the materials. You don't need anything fancy. It's not electronic, nothing. Straightforward mechanical stuff which we know how to do. So keep in touch with me, and you
I
can
will.
certainly call me in any email discussions about not just my idea, but any idea that you have.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
no problem. I'll be happy to give whatever support I can.
Yes, yes. I'll hold you to that.
Okay, no, I am ready to be held. Okay, there's no issue because energy is, I think, energy independence is critical.
Yes.
Energy independence is critical. We cannot become energy dependent and remain energy dependent next 25 years. It's not going to work.
That's right.
Okay, so any final thoughts?
Yeah, pray for our youth.
Okay, all right.
We need
Okay, so let's
them
end
to
this
be
here. Say bye
productively
to the
employed.
viewers. And let me say I'll be back with another interesting person soon. Till then, bye. Let me end the recording now. Okay, bye-bye.